Remember the scrolling trick I showed you yesterday? When a new message comes in, it scrolls down? We don't have enough messages here right now to illustrate that properly, so. Okay, now we got room to scroll. Okay. So let's see about doing this thing. So this is one of those few times when we actually need to deal with the DOM. We're still not going to use query selector. We're still going to stick with a React way of dealing with the DOM. We're going to use a ref. Let's say React ref. Let's Google that, see if we can find a good definition here. Refs and the DOM. Refs provide a way to access DOM nodes or React elements created in the render method. In the typical React data flow, props are the only way that parent components interact with their children. To modify a child, you re-render it with new props. However, there are a few cases where you need to imperatively modify a child outside of the typical data flow. The child to be modified could be an instance of a React component or it could be a DOM element. For both these cases, React provides an escape hatch. And one good excuse is when you need to deal with scrolling things. Don't overuse them. Don't just go to this when you don't know how to do something. Think if there's a React-y way. Do some reading. See if we can. Here's an example. Often it becomes clear that the proper place to own that state is at a higher level in the hierarchy. See the lifting state up guide for examples of this. That's what we just did, right? We moved room list up higher to a higher component. All right, so if we have to do this, you could use React create ref, or this particular one. Let's see how this one does it. Let's find what was the link I found this morning? This is the one I sent you, but this is not the one that I actually had in the morning. There was a different reference in here about it. But basically, there's several ways you can set refs. One of them is like so. So we have the message list, right? What I want to do is put an element right at the end, right after the messages. Let's put a div right after the actual list of messages with nothing in it. And I want to say, okay, scroll to that. Scroll so that this is in the view. So I want to put a ref on here. So what I'll do is put ref equals, and then you can give this a callback. And the callback will receive as its argument this element. So the element here, my div. And what I'm going to do is set a property on this component, like this dot messages end equals this element. So then I can get to that DOM element with this dot messages end. So I could do that, say, when the component updates. So I need a lifecycle function, which means this needs to be a class. So let's make it a class. That's easy. We've done it over and over now. Import React and component. Instead of const message list, class message list extends component. So here are the props that I ripped out. So instead, once I make my render method, here we go, render. Indent all this. In my render method, I'll say const this stuff equals this dot props. There you go. Class message list extends component. Now it's a class. So I have my ref here. Here's the element. Now I've set this dot messages end to that element. So I'll add component did update. Component did update receives as its arguments first whatever the props used to be, then whatever the state used to be, etc. So what happens when a new message comes in? my props change, right? The list of messages are coming in as a prop. So that should happen. So what I want to do is make sure that there are now more messages than there were. Make sure that that's what changed. So if prev props dot messages dot length is less than this dot props dot messages dot length, then there's a new message. And then I can scroll. I'm going to make a new method for scrolling real quick. Let's call it scroll to bottom. It's kind of a different job. So this dot messages end, that is now a thing because of this. So this dot messages end is this div. And I can call scroll into view. That's a DOM method. It's experimental, not supported in absolutely every browser under the sun, but it's supported enough for our purposes. And then some browsers also support an argument where you can tell it, give it some options like behavior smooth, which makes it scroll nice and smoothly. So in component.update, if there are more messages than there used to be, just call this dot scroll to bottom. Did you see that? Watch this. Watch this. What? Hey! Let's go to a different room, and then let's come back to that room. Hey! Oh, here's where it gets really good, though, right? Well, not to a private. Let's just do a new. Yeah. I want to be logged in as the same user. It's too much trouble otherwise. Then I have to remember my passwords. So I'm in ball pits, right? Wah, even longer. Now watch it. Oh, yeah. New messages come in. It scrolls up. Scroll when new messages are received. This is getting slick.